When you think of Aston Martin, two things immediately come to mind. The first being James Bond, 007 himself. And the second being a damn good looking car. And while not everyone can wear a suit and look as good as I do, the car is at least attainable, if you can afford it. Oh, thank God that intro's over with. I'm happy to be out of the suit and not to have an accent. But here's some good news. If you liked all that B-roll right after the intro, we're going to be moving on into the interior impressions of the Aston Martin Vantage. And the first thing that you really do notice when you walk into this car or sit down is there's a lot of leather. So whoever spec'd this out really liked that. And the cool thing is it doesn't have to be leather. It can be Alcantara or whatever you like. A lot of people don't know that each Aston Martin is very bespoke to the person that spec'd it out. So if you wanted your stitching to be a certain color, or you want the interior to just match something else, it can be done. And that brings us over to a lot of the stuff right over here that sadly can't be switched over or changed. One of the big pet peeves I do have with this car is that it uses a 2-generation-old Mercedes infotainment system. And it's a bit disheartening to find on a car such as this. I understand that Mercedes lended a lot of their things over to the Aston Martin Vantage, whether it be the engine and the turbos. I really wish that they had a different form of infotainment system though. Besides that, I think that's possibly one of the only negatives in this car, besides the fact that a lot of the switchboard here is very laggy. And I find myself having to restart the car to just reset it once in a while, and it becomes very annoying. But those are the only two pet peeves that I really do have with this car. A lot of the pros though, now that we're going to get onto, is the fact that it's actually very spacious for what it is. And after a lot of research, I figured out that Aston Martin actually took into account, I guess, taller people, bigger people. Because I'm not very tall. I'm 5'6", 5'7", but wow, when you max out all the seat settings, there is ample room for you being 6'3", 6'4". And let's see, next up, more positives. Physical button switches everywhere for climate and everything else. It looks a bit overwhelming when you first get into the car, but you get used to it pretty quickly. And it's better than all this digital stuff going on right now. Moving on to the exterior impressions of the Aston Martin, I have to address this real quick. These cars are notoriously known for having panel gap issues. Luckily for us, this one doesn't for the most part. The only panel gap I see would be here, and it's not that bad. And I guess in recent times, Aston has improved their issue with this, but you have to realize every one of these cars are hand-built, so you're just gonna have to deal with it. And well, moving on, front of the car, it just screams Aston Martin. Every single line that's here is extremely muscular. I wish we had another paint that wasn't white that covered a few of these lines up. I don't know if you can see, but it really does have some presence to it, especially with this giant grille that's reminiscent of the Aston Martin Vulcan, because this engine needs to breathe. We'll get onto that a bit later. But moving over here to the side profile of this car, holy crap. There's no fake vents, luckily, and every single one of these lines serves a purpose, unlike the new G82 M4s, sadly. But every line feeds into this right here, this big arch. Oh my God, rear fenders, it looks ridiculous from the front, the side, and the rear. Actually, moving on to the rear. If you thought the front and the sides were insane, this is ridiculous. I don't know how a lot of people feel about light bar, but on a car like this, it looks wonderful. That besides this car having the sports exhaust, I think it looks great. And oh, usually I'd have a fit with these bumperettes, but because this thing looks so aggressive, especially with this giant diffuser, I think it actually fits the car more than anything else. And I had one more thing that I should have put in on the interior impressions, but better late than never. Trunk space. The Aston Martin Vantage actually has 10 cubic feet of trunk space, which is about, I think, 1.2 more than a Nissan GTR. It's not too much, but at least you can put a bunch of stuff back here. And now we're gonna move on to the engine, the transmission, and a few other small technical things about the Aston Martin. Oh, beforehand, we actually have a sponsor for this video. It's actually my aunt's company. This is BLT, this is Blue Engine Lubricant Treatment. And what it is, it's actually an oil additive. So it's a nanocarbon crystalline lattice based, I guess, formula. And what happens is once you put it into your engine, it'll coat your cylinder walls and your cylinders to help improve fuel economy, give you more horsepower, and also it's gonna improve your engine life. I highly recommend this stuff. I've been using it religiously in my M4 for the past 4 or 5 years, and it's been wonderful. Through daily driving, through track days, I can't recommend this stuff enough, honestly. Put it in after every oil change, every track day. And please click that link below. It's gonna lead you straight to Amazon. And please use this code. It's Project Redline, PRJ Redline, and that'll get you 30% off. And thank you again. Now we're gonna move on to the engine itself. I've been waiting a while to talk about this thing because this, at its core, is again a Mercedes AMG motor. This is their M177 and straight out of their
C63, S63, and E63 AMG.
And, well, I can't say that completely because most of it is actually bespoke Aston. Besides the engine block and the turbos itself, it's all Aston Martin. It puts down 503 horsepower and 505 pound-feet of torque. It's a 4-liter bi-turbo V8 with a hot V design. And what's really cool about this engine is the fact that it's very mid-front engine. Or I guess it is a mid-front engine, sorry. Which means that this car actually has almost a 50-50 weight distribution. And oh my God, it will help it handle, especially when we move on to the driving impressions with this car. And besides the engine, all the chassis, all the suspension tuning is bespoke Aston Martin. Not a single bit of Mercedes. It's all British. But I guess it does have some Germanness to it. The suspension's stiff, but not too much. It's a little forgiving. And that's gonna move us over to the transmission. I didn't believe it, but this is actually a ZF 8-speed transmission. Yes, the exact one that's used in pretty much every single BMW, the Supra, Hellcats. Just, I wouldn't believe it because of the tuning. I'm surprised how versatile that transmission really is. It's incredible. And all the little bits that they've added into this car to really help it become that sports car that Aston needs it to be, incredible. Besides it having extra cooling up here and just extra tidbits here and there, it's a great motor and it's reliable for what it is now. This motor was actually inspected by Jamie Mills, so thank you, Jamie. And now we move on to the driving impressions with the 2019 Aston Martin Vantage. And the first thing that comes to mind, besides the motor, we'll get to that, is how well this thing handles for how big and how heavy it really is. This car hides its weight so well compared against its competition with the BMW M8, the Nissan GTR, the Lexus LC500. It's incredible what Aston has done to refine its suspension. It's ridiculous. The suspension tuning on this is absurd. I wouldn't expect this out of Aston, who are, again, well known for their big luxury Grand Touring cars like the DB11, the DBS. This Vantage really is Aston's answer to having their quintessential sports car. Oh my God. And I think it has a lot to do with the steering ratio of the car. The Aston Martin Vantage, I believe, is at 2.5 lock to lock, and it just makes the car feel so much more nimble. It feels so tactile, so sharp, and it almost makes you forget how big of a car this really is comparatively. It's incredible. And guess that's enough about handling, because what good's handling if the car doesn't have a good motor? This Mercedes motor is absolutely incredible for what it is. The fact that AMG has lent Aston Martin their M177, oh my god, it's incredible. It does lose that British bulldog growl, that bite, that growl of a naturally aspirated V8. But I don't think a lot of people are gonna mind. It still sounds incredible, but it definitely isn't British. And well, the era of naturally aspirated V8s and naturally aspirated motors in general are coming to an end, and this is the future, whether we like it or not. But if it's something like this, I don't have to worry. And that segues us straight into the transmission, which I was pleasantly surprised with. It's not a dual clutch, it's nothing fancy. It is one of the most widely used transmissions available today for the consumer market and for performance cars. It's a ZF 8-speed. The same ZF that you'd find on a Hellcat, on a BMW M3, an M4, M2, and the Toyota Supra, or the BMW Supra. It's incredible how, how can I put it? It's incredible how well it works in so many different cars and different functions, and how much of a difference small bits of tuning can do to a transmission. Everything's crisp, everything's sharp, and the upshifts are very quick. I have no words besides how good this car really is. And the interior, again, holds up so well. It has all the amenities that you'd like. It has all the switchboard that you need and expect out of a luxury Aston Martin Grand Touring car, all put into a sports car. And now we're going to move on to the final thoughts and conclusion with this 2019 Aston Martin Vantage. It's been a joy to drive, and it's been a joy to review. I really can't recommend it enough, honestly. If you have the money for it, at MSRP, I believe it's around $130,000, and then the sky's the limit with all these options and everything that you can choose from. But it's gonna turn heads, it's gonna make your day, it's a fun car to drive. And I really think that Aston hit it home with this being their flagship, quintessential sports car. I can't really say anything else. From it having a wet sump lubrication system, to having this motor, to having all this leather, all the amenities, although there are a few cons, they're widely and severely overshadowed by all the pros with this car. And well, that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you again, guys. Please subscribe, like, and share for Project Redline, and we hope to see you on the next one. Remember to always hit the red line.